Hey, coach, we just got finished talking with Dante, and he felt like the key to maybe some of the things that have gone wrong these past few games is just like competing consistently for 48 minutes. How do you maybe use practice to get those competitive juices flowing? I know they're NBA players and professionals, and like you should always compete, but is there anything you can do to like muster up that competitiveness?
I mean, sometimes there's, drills and defensive stuff and scrambling and, things that just kind of cultivate, being there for each other and competing for each other that you can do in practice.
Eric Name.
Watching back the game from last night, it felt like the Raptors really put a priority on trying to get out in transition, whether it was a make or a miss or whatever it was, like they were going to push. We've seen a couple teams kind of try to do that in the last couple of weeks against you. What are you seeing from your transition defense, and what do you think you can do better or maybe do to try to get teams to stop trying to do that?
Well, I mean, one of the things that you mentioned in the question was that I think some teams are trying to do it off of makes, and so at the end of the day, sometimes your offense has got to be better, but there's a priority with some teams, make or miss. They're putting pressure on you quickly. Toronto's certainly one of those teams, and it just takes a collective, whoever the five guys are in the game at that time. You cannot hesitate. You cannot relax. You cannot take 1 second off as you transition from offense to defense. Whether it's a make, a miss, a dead ball, whatever the situation is, you got to get back, and all five have got to be ready to guard, very, very basically instantaneously.
At the start of the season, we had talked a lot about like, oh, guys can crash to the glass now. Have you? I guess just now, a couple months into the season, what are your thoughts on your transition defense and whether or not that increased crashing, that increased freedom to go to the boards on offense has affected your transition defense?
No, I think the offensive rebounding has been a good, kind of layer to making us a better offensive team, and I don't think when we're having trouble in transition defense, it's a lot of reasons. It's if you could just say it's as simple as, oh, if we are no longer offensive rebounding, then we will take care of every transition basket. Then that's something you look at. But when I look at it on the whole, or we look at it on the whole, it's a lot of things. When we're not good in transition defense, it's a lot of things. And I think our efforts on the offensive boards need to be just the same, if not better. And it may require us to have even greater effort to be back in transition and to take care of that part of the game. But it's not the easy 2+2 link. That I guess if it was, maybe I'd be happy. We'd just solve it real quickly.
What is something that sticks out there? If you
just five guys, I think, committed to sprinting and getting back and keeping the ball in front of us.
Jim Ozarski.
Mike, to go back to Zora's question, is it concerning at all that guys do talk about it's just competing? It's just because the way I hear that is, I don't know if that's an energy thing or an effort thing. Like, how do you take it when the guys say they just need to compete more on a regular basis?
I mean, that's the number one thing we talk about.
Okay.
That's what we want to be. That's, our priority. So I think, there's lots of times when we do it at a high level, and when we don't, we talk about it. And so I think it's great self-awareness. We know we've got to compete better. We've got to compete harder. This league, there's Toronto's well coached. They execute well. They do a lot of things well, and they compete. All 30 teams compete. It's a part of the equation, and we feel like we've got to do it at a little higher level. We've got to do it better. There's not just a switch, or it's not an automatic button. You've got to dig in and you got to do it. And so I think the self-awareness, the recognition of it, is a positive.
Okay. For a guy like DJ Augustin, obviously 13 years of experience, but he's clearly in a shooting funk. I mean, these are right around 22%, I think, the last week, and at a career low. So how do you help that? Is it just practice or do you rely on history? Like how are you guys trying to work in with him as he's really in a funk here offensively?
Yeah, just encourage him to continue to be aggressive. Not to have any hesitation to catch it and let it fly when he's got good opportunities. I think playing off the ball, and some of the things we've talked about throughout the year being just a little different. But he's, like you said, he's a 13-year veteran. He's historically a very, very good shooter. He's just got to stick with what he's doing. He's got to stick with being aggressive. Stick with a good mindset, and he'll come good.
Right. And finally, Torrey, the first game without Drew was in Denver. We saw Torrey play 23 minutes. I think some foul trouble in Phoenix. Has that been part of the film watching or figuring out how to make up for Drew's absence on defense with personnel? I guess it would seem that Torrey might be a fit defensively with his size and what he can do. But I realize there's an offensive part of it too with the playmaking. So how have you tried to manage Drew's absence in that way with Torrey and some of these other guys?
Yeah, there's been some nights where we've relied on Torrey a little bit more to guard some perimeter wings and different things like that. And again, then sometimes that's if he's playing with Giannis and Brooke or Giannis and Bobby, then kind of bumping him to a more of a wing offensively. And just it's been a short time, but Torrey's minutes have been the majority playing behind Giannis. And we do, I think, without Drew, maybe put Torrey in as a wing and play him on some of these guys. It's just kind of night to night. It's been a little bit different. Who's played well, who we've gone with. But Torrey's certainly one of those guys in that mix.
Steve McGargy.
Just wondering, you've had a couple of these back-to-back type games already this year. What do you I imagine they were designed because of the pandemic and cut down on travel, but what do you make of them so far? How do you think? Do you like them? Do you not like them? And what's been the dynamic with these second games back-to-back so far?
Yeah, at the start of the year, we said we'd kind of, evaluate it and kind of weigh in on it at the end of the year. I will say, getting relatively close to the midpoint, I think they've been a positive for, at least for our team. I would say probably the league, and it probably should just start on a very basic, simplistic level of, reducing travel and, of course, keeping us safer during these challenging times. But when we return to normal times, anytime you can reduce travel for NBA players and NBA teams, I think the quality of play is better, and different things like that. So that just on a very simplistic, basic level, I think is a positive. And then giving a little bit of a playoff feel to just watching the same team, knowing the same team, getting to watch film and then go play the same team again. It makes things a lot harder for you. And you got to make things more difficult and more challenging for your opponent, and that just gives a little bit of that playoff sense that I think is good for teams that are planning to be in the playoffs and want to have a long run.
All right, one more to Marcus Johnson.
Hey, Coach. Just watching you over the last couple of years, you always seem to kind of give different guys different opportunities at different points in the season. Has there been any thought about DJ Wilson, just in terms of his foot quickness and defensive abilities on the perimeter, or do you plan to kind of just stay with what you've been staying with so far?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's got to be ready, and I think it is good to mix things up and give guys opportunities. And DJ's working before practice. He's doing good things in the play group, and he brings a lot to the table. Defensively, he's versatile. Offensively, he's versatile. Torrey's been playing. Thanasis has played. DJ played the first handful of games. Coming out of training camp. So all three of those guys have really gotten an opportunity, and we'll just continue to kind of look at it and try and figure out what's best. But they're ready. They're capable. All three of those guys are good players that can help us. All right, thanks.
Bye, bud.